Hello and welcome to part 2 of Basic JavaScript You Need to Know. In this lesson, we're going to go over arrays and objects. Arrays are a type of variable. They're like a variable. You know how a variable will hold a value, right? We have the variables, and if I can get it right, the variable, and it is a var equals some value. Yeah, like 0. What if you have a list of stuff that can all come under the same name, like students, yeah, and so you would have, like, say, Tony. Well, that's just one student. What if we've got like a whole class, and there's lots of different students in there? What would we do then? Well, if we do this, now it is an array. So if I now pop in there Tony, I can separate this and put in there Karen. Amy, Ben, Steve, Fred, and Eve. Yeah, so now we have an array of different people in there. So how can we check this array? So if I do a function, and what should we call this function? I'm going to put this button down here. There it is. My function it's called, isn't it? It's the same as last time. And we're just going to do alert students. Hopefully this will work. I might have to pop this actually in here to get it to work, but we'll see if this is going to work. And it has. It's come up here with the different names there. So what I can do is put in here join, and if I put in this special code, it hopefully should give us them in this list, and it has done. There we go. We've got Tony, Karen, Amy. We have the people in the list. We have all of these in here. Well, that's okay. But supposing I want to just pick out Karen or Eve. So if I take that out, and now I do it. It works. So we have Tony, right? Because this is this one. Now, if I do 1, it's going to come up Karen. Yeah. Now, if this is 2, this is 0, 1, 2. Amy is going to come up there. right? And there's Amy. You see, I've put in a couple of buttons there, and I'll show you why I'm doing that. So first of all, we're going to make some functions. And we're going to call this counter up. And in here, we're going to have a variable. So the variable, we're going to have to declare the variable up here. And we're going to call it index. Like that. Now, here, I'm going to take this alert and I'm going to pop this in here. And index, we're going to set to 0. So now index is going to go in this place where the 0 is. And I'm going to make another function that is exactly the same, except for I'm going to call it counter down. And that has index in there. Let's do +1 before we start messing around with it all. So now if I go to up, and it has Tony there. And if I go up again, Tony, right, because Tony's at 0. Now, if this is index +1, that should come up Karen, yeah? And it does, right? So we can see how that's happening there. That's not particularly useful on its own. It would be more useful if we could use these up and down buttons to navigate and display something in here. If I put in here index and I think we'll just use these two at the bottom. Index, if I take that there and I take that out of it for a moment. And what I'm going to do is this is going to go index ++, and this is going to go index -. So we've got to put our, we're putting the semicolons in. Naughty me. Here we go. So they're all in there. And let's not put it in alert. Let's make it, let's just put that down there for a moment. We'll do document. And in here display in a HTML. And that's going to equal the students down here. So if I do exactly the same, I copy this and pop this in here. Now, what happens? Now if I click on this up button, it says Karen. It skipped right over Tony because it starts on 0 and it goes to the next one, which is 1. Okay, so if this was, if we set it to -1, and now if I go up, it says Tony. You see, right? So this is just about showing you how you can navigate through this array here. I'm not going to do anything fancy, like you go up, but you get to a certain point. Now it says undefined because there is no variable for that. There is no index for that that variable now. Okay, and there, it goes off to scale. But anyhow, let's go back to here, and that is going to be 0, and we're going to move on to the next part. So this is the arrays. Now, do remember that you don't have to put strings in there. These are strings. Okay, you have different data types. You have strings, integers, floating point, doubles. Depending on which language you use, it might use a bit of different terminology in that, but like we tend to use floating point, integers, and these are strings. So floating point, that would be like 2.45. Okay, but there can be some problems when you do maths and you use floating point to do maths, but I'll cover that in a different video. An integer, just 1 would be an integer. 45 would be an integer. 0 would be an integer. -1 would be an integer. So if I take those back there, and we put in Karen, wasn't it? Now we can navigate through these things like it was a bit like a Rolodex. It's a bit more useful because you can pick out certain things. But it would be more useful if I had more information about Tony the student, Karen the student, Amy the student, right? What if there was a way of adding more variables to this, to Tony? Let's say Tony had age and grades, yeah? So how would we do that? Well, the answer is that we can use an object, and in this array we can store objects. Okay, so before we move on, you have variables store one value, arrays store many values, and these can be fixed values, or they can be variables, or they could be numbers, right? And they can also be objects. So what would I do there? Well, to make an object, we do this. If I just put an object up here, my object, and we just declare it. This is how we would declare it. Then you can put like values in there. And in here, you see the colors have changed already as the editor has predicted what's going to happen. Right? Now I separate that out. And let's say we have, let's change this to name. Name. I'll just put it in lowercase. Name. And then we have Tony. Now, I separate that by comma, and we have age. And let's we'll make it a string, and we'll say that Tony is 14. Separate this out, and we'll put grade. And Tony's very good, so he's a plus. All right. So let's do the same for the rest. I could actually make it look, if I do this, now that is going to make it look a whole lot simpler. Yeah, so we do name. So these are key value pairs, and I've got to put that in for all of them now. Yeah. And then we had age, didn't we? Age. So I'll skip ahead and I'll put all of these in, and then you can see what they are. Okay, now we're back. We have here, this is an object within this array. And if I now click up, it comes up that it's an object. And if I click it again, it's going to just do object, object, until it goes to undefined because it's run out of index. How are we going to get those values out? Well, if I go down to this part here, which is displaying the code, and I just do name, for instance, and now I click on up, it gives the name. And if I click down, it just go object again because it hasn't put the name on there. So if I wanted to display this particular stuff, all of it, then I would have to call all of the keys individually. You know, we can circle through the index one by one, like we're doing here. So it goes like Ben, Fred, Steve. You know, it's circling through it, but it's not giving the other values as well, because we need to put them in. And that means like they need their own little space as well, don't they? So if I have age, and then this one would be grade. Yeah, that was right, wasn't it? I'm going to have to put the span tags in there, so that's not too difficult, is it? Because what we do is we'll make this one age and this one grade. Save that. Go back to here. This one we'll make age, grade. So now when I go up, it now displays Tony 14 A+. We can give that a bit more displayability by concatenating using that. So we'll have name, and then here we have age. Let's do it like this. And then down here we have grade. And then pop that into this one here. Save. That should be like that. Okay, so now I'll go up, up again, and then down works okay. Grade there, that needs slight adjustment. Okay, but you can see how useful this is now, right? Because what I've got is I've got these objects and I've put them in an array, which makes it easy for me to navigate through. Yeah. Not only that, what if I want to change something in this array? Let's say Stephen, his attitude is really bad, and we're going to change his grade. We're going to downgrade his grade. Now I could come in here and change it that way, but what if I want to change it a different way by using a button? So where it's got add to array, I think we call that change grade for now. I've sorted out the code so that now when we change the grade, what it will do So if I just move this up here, what it will do is it will grab this, and I'm going to talk you through it so you can see what's going on. It will grab this, and let me show you first what happens, right? Okay, so now I select, let's select, let's make sure, let's start this again. Let's select Steve, right? And I want to change his grade because he's not doing very well. So now if I go change grade, it comes up with the name Steve. It's selected Steve. It's telling us that Steve is, that this name is actually in the array that it's been found. And now it's asking us to enter a new grade. Now it's very crude, so I could put anything in there, and it wouldn't matter. It would just accept it. So let's say I'm going to fail him. Now press OK. Now it upgrades immediately, and now this grade has gone from a C to an F. How did I do that? There are some important things to go over here. First of all, we've got this new variable, a name. And what it's doing is it's grabbing this name here. But the problem is, if I grab this, what it's going to do is grab the whole lot, including this part of the string here. And we don't want that, because it will always come up as a mismatch. It will say no match. And I'll show you, because what I've done is we've got this variable a name, and a name is being truncated, it's being shortened. It's having basically the first 6 characters removed. Okay, so if I take this out, and now I go up, and we've just done Steve, so we'll do Steve again. We'll look for Steve, and now if I do change grade, it's going to search for it, and it says there's the name Steve, but now it comes up no match. That's because it's including all of this, because that's what's being shown there. If I was to redo this, all of that disappears. You see? So that's why we have in here that substring. And the reason why there is that 6 in there is because I've counted here. If we go along here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we include the space 6. This match equals true. Up here it's been set to false. Here it's reset to true. And if match equals true, then it alerts the match. It runs this piece of code here, which is to get the grade. So it's delving in to get the grade. So we have students, index, and then we use the dot notation grade. Now the index, what's the index? The index is this part here. And what it's doing is once it gets to here, it's grabbing the index of the match from here, and then it's sending it to here. This is now asking to get the new grade, and that's coming down here to this function, which then invokes the prompt. Now I could make the prompt a lot more fancy to make sure that we enter the right kind of thing, but I don't want to go over the top. And now it's doing this thing, it's returning this grade, right? So now when it does this return, the return goes back up to here, and this now equals whatever it is that we enter, because what we enter is going into here. That value is being returned, and now here student index dot grade is being changed to the value that we enter. Now this next piece of code is just putting the new grade value in there and making sure that we have the word grade, because otherwise It just showed a new value. It won't show grade because we haven't put that in. So what if I want to change it so I can enter it in here? So this one, we could just change that from prompt to document dot get element by ID. And now we just need to find out the ID for this. And what is the ID for this? We go into here and we look for the one that is input, and the ID is set value. So we grab that. We pop that into there. And now what we're going to have? Well, we've been using HTML, but this is going to have a specific value, because if we go back here, remember we can see that it's got a value, right? So I go back and I put value in. Let's say Amy. Well, Amy's been doing very well. We want to upgrade her value, and I'm going to put this in as an A plus. And now I do change grade. And it changes down here. Well, this could still be wrong. I could put in here boo. And now if I do change grade, it now says boo down there. So that's too easy for there to be a mistake, right? What we could do is change this to something else. And we could change it to like options, couldn't we? We could change it to some sort of option so that we can select what the value is. But I go over options and stuff in the HTML videos, and this is to do with the JavaScript. Don't forget to subscribe and like. That's it for now. I'll see you next time.